Watcher Guru put this out. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong says crypto market structure legislation is closer than ever to being passed. Now, this on the surface looks super bullish and people could get super excited, but I wanted to give you guys a realistic perspective of how long this process might actually take after each and every single step. And so this is a gentleman, I don't remember his exact credentials. He's from Coinbase. He's on the regulatory side of things from Coinbase. He's like in their regulatory department. I don't remember his exact credentials. But he goes on to talk about the legislation and the Clarity Act and how, many steps are actually still in the works that need to come into fruition to give our community kind of a clear perspective on how many more weeks or how much longer this could actually take. So just listen to what he says so that way this clears up any confusion, because you could see an announcement like this from Watcher Guru, be like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen right now. It's going to happen tomorrow. That's not actually the case. This gentleman clears the air on that and actually goes through the steps of what it's going to actually take to get this thing passed in the coming days / weeks / months ahead.
The White House ran infinite meetings with the bank groups. Most of them wouldn't participate or sent junior representatives who sort of sat stone-faced in the meetings. I was in some of those meetings. And then now they've turned around and saying, oh, well, senators didn't understand what they were doing and here's some edits to fix it. I think they've sort of run the patience out for the senators who wanted to be helpful to them. So I'm hopeful that issue is behind us and this is sort of the last gasp of their efforts to try to block the legislation.
So in terms of process, we got the text last night. I think we're expecting amendments by the end of today, I'm sure at 2 a.m. again.
Yeah.
What else is going to happen before the hearing on Thursday, and then what's going to happen during the hearing Thursday?
Right, so the amendments will go in today. By the end of the day, the chairman will then kind of review them and decide whether he's going to accept any of them. I suspect he won't accept any of the amendments since everyone on the committee's had a full 11 months now to negotiate provisions of the bill. They'll vote the bill out hopefully on Thursday, and then at that point, the Ag Committee and the Banking Committee have to take their respective portions of the Clarity Act, merge them, and then it'll go to the floor, which we expect will happen in the second half of June. There's a big foreign intelligence bill that has to go through the floor, which will take up the first half of June, and this will be the second half of June.
In terms of this, floor fight, once we get through the Banking Committee, and you mentioned the Agriculture Committee, we know that two different groups have to merge their bills. What else is going to have to happen before this gets to the U.S. President's desk and, becomes a law or potentially becomes a law?
Well, it'll have to go through the Senate, which, the Senate processes are such that any one senator can potentially hold up any provision, and you need 60 votes to overcome an effort, an opposition by a single senator. So my guess is there'll be at least 12 votes, potentially more, necessary over the course of those 2 weeks. And each vote by the Senate rules has to be preceded by a period of debate. And so you'll see it'll be just a sort of cat and mouse game by the opponents who will object to everything. And then there'll be votes that they'll have to take and hopefully get 60 members. You have 53 Republicans. You need at least 7 Democrats to come along. In the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, there was 5 Democrats on the Banking Committee who supported the bill. All 5 of those walked on the early procedural votes when the bill went to the floor. So what everyone thought would be a kind of a fast process ended up taking 2 weeks on Genius, which is a less complicated, less controversial bill. So my guess is this will be as complicated, but I think everyone's exhausted. They kind of know what's going to happen. There's a core of Democrats who really want this bill to get done. I do think that people are also looking at the election cycle. You've got 3 million grassroots advocates in Stand with Crypto. This is a resonant political issue. So my guess is it'll take 2 weeks, but we'll get it through.
And then on the House side, I would say the U.S. House has struggled a little bit to pass anything the Senate sent it recently.
Yeah.
Any expectations for what's going to happen there?
Well, fortunately, Frank Hill, the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, which is the House counterpart to the Banking Committee, just said the other day that he has his catcher's mitt ready to take the Senate bill. So that was actually very welcome news. I think they understand that this is it, that they, putting this, trying to go to conference and get this through the Senate again is just much too hard to pull off. And so it's not just Frank Hill's call, it's also the Ag chairman on the House side. But G.T. Thompson, the House Committee chairman, and Frank Hill have worked very collaboratively and very closely together. So my guess is The Senate has done a good job on the bill so far. If it stays mostly intact, the House will accept it.
So,
I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a clearer perspective on the actual process behind the scenes. And I thought that even though there's, of course, things happening behind the curtains that we're not going to know or see, gives you a more realistic perspective when you see announcements like this and you get excited and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen today. That's unrealistic. There's still a process that needs to unfold and happen behind the scenes. And so, albeit this is coming soon, it's likely to happen, according to this guy, I'd say by the end of June, possibly July. Let's cross our fingers and hope. But when you see announcements like this from large social media platforms, don't get too excited. We know behind the scenes from systemically important people that are working in the crypto industry, like this gentleman here, that there's an actual process that happens behind the scenes. I enjoyed hearing that to give myself some clarity on the actual process of this Clarity Act passing. So I thought that you guys would as well. So I shared that with you. Coming over here to just some other groundbreaking announcements. We got announcements from Hedera, Chainlink, Stellar, groundbreaking announcements that are literally, huge infrastructure plays and just perspectives from industry leading experts of these, blockchain networks. And then we also have a major announcement that we'll end on with Canton that just took shape today. So we have this gentleman here from the Hedera Foundation, and he goes on to talk about how Hedera is uniquely designed for regulated finance. Take a second and listen to what he says here.
Hedera only just last week was recognized as the third asset after Bitcoin and ETH to have the SEC approve an ETF, which began trading on the NASDAQ. And to me, this is really validation of the enterprise-grade and scalable nature of the network, a network that is uniquely designed for regulated financial markets. And I stress the regulation point because the reality is not all networks are built the same. Hedera specifically has addressed, and largely through having governance that is done on a corporate level through asset managers like Aberdeen, through investment banks like Nomura, Standard Bank, corporations like Google and IBM that are all running this public network. You have the foresight to ensure that there are sanctions compliance embedded in the network, that you have embedded asset level KYC and consumer protections, that you have no front running within the network. When you think about where we really are today, and if you are to believe, as Larry Fink has put it, that all assets will be tokenized, the reality is most networks, public blockchains that you have today, are not well suited for these applications, because what you experience, and we all had this with the AWS only just earlier this month, you saw network downtimes, you saw congestion, you saw centralized exposure to cloud services, you see 1000x surge pricing and fee models, limited throughput, limited scalability. That is not enterprise ready, and Hedera is enterprise ready. So I encourage any of the institutions that are looking at tokenizing investments and looking to deploy new applications to look at Hedera. It is unique in its design, in its governance, and as a business model, and I think the approval by the SEC is further validation of that.
Right. So he just specifically mentioned that Hedera is uniquely designed for enterprise-grade adoption and regulated finance. I enjoy that because I hold a absolute crap ton of HBAR that is all working for me right now in the Metallicus ecosystem, earning me yield. So I'm super bullish on the HBAR, ecosystem. I thought that you guys would enjoy that. Coming over here to Chainlink, I don't know if any of you all hold Chainlink. I personally sold a lot of my Chainlink when it had its last rally, but this was just super massive and just more confirmation that it is playing a huge role in the future financial system. This is just from yesterday, May 12th, 2026. DTCC collaborates with Chainlink to advance 24/7 collateral management. Just reading a few highlights, it says the DTCC's collateral app chain, a shared infrastructure platform for collateral, will leverage Chainlink runtime environment and Chainlink data standard to enable near real-time collateral management across financial markets and blockchains. They will leverage the Chainlink runtime environment and Chainlink's data standard to support key orchestration and data automation capabilities. Chainlink will be integrated into the DTCC's collateral app chain to enable the seamless pairing of asset prices, valuations, and movement of the aim of overhauling how market risks and is managed globally. Says the DTCC's collateral app chain was publicly unveiled during the DTCC's Great Collateral Experiment and is expected to go live in Q4 2026. The integration of Chainlink's CRE and data standard will allow us to deliver a unified on-chain environment, bringing on-chain asset prices, valuations, and other collateral agreement data to support this transformative industry initiative. So I thought for those of you all that are still net bullish on Chainlink would like to hear that announcement that came from yesterday directly from the DTCC. And then just yesterday as well, another huge announcement, Stellar announced that they and the government of Bermuda announced that Bermuda will begin moving key payment and financial services activity on chain into the Stellar network. The announcement is the first operational milestone since Bermuda announced at the World Economic Forum in January 2026 that the island plans to become the world's first fully on-chain national economy. And then here from the Bermuda Digital Finance Forum that Osmar shared yesterday, this is where they announced the official announcement. So just take a second and listen to what these two gentlemen say.
There's the evolution, but I know that without question, I see you laughing over there. Keep that to yourself. Stellar has certainly been doing the serious work in deploying blockchain infrastructure in sovereign context for years. This is the first time that we have Stellar, and I'm grateful that you are sponsoring the Digital Finance Forum. Tell us what is important to the Stellar Development Foundation and why Bermuda and why now?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Stellar is a network that was purpose-built for regulated finance. And I think we have been really focusing on this over the course of the last 12 years. The design of the network was really focusing on being able to first make sure that you can transmit a payment anywhere in the world at as low cost as possible, while making sure that we built in all the right features into the set to make institutional issuers and others very, very comfortable with the network. That goes from things like asset tokenization features, the ability to freeze, claw back, all of these things on the network that really make it super viable and valuable, particularly as we start engaging with institutions, but also regulators across the board. And so what I think has been really powerful is, that has allowed us to be the first in a lot of different things that have, I think, a lot of relation. We're the first network to work on deploying a universal basic income solution, which we did in the Marshall Islands. We were the first blockchain to work with the first regulated money market fund through our friends here at Franklin Templeton on Stellar as well. We've worked with the German government. We've worked with the United Nations. We've worked with the World Bank on deploying a lot of different payment structures that required all of that. And so that's really been the key. But what's so fascinating to me about Bermuda, and really just a tremendous job to you and everyone here, is this is where I see the convergence of the technology, the regulation, and the politics, which makes this just a phenomenal place to start thinking about what's next as it relates to digital finance. So again, we are so excited to be here with you. And I'd say, maybe on that note, I had the opportunity to watch you last week at Consensus in Miami. It was very hot. I was very sweaty, and you did an incredible job. And I watched you announce a couple of legislative updates that the government is planning to make to further this digital finance vision. And I'm really curious, what do those announcements, what do they actually mean for the island?
Well, I think it's important. If you're going to be a leader in digital finance globally, you also have to demonstrate adoption here at home. We are demonstrating the value of digital finance, and the government is going to take the leadership position to make sure that we go ahead and get that done. And so from that perspective, it's been a long journey. It's been a long journey. And we've been speaking about this for a while, but though the government reviewed quickly, they're also making sure that we get it right, get the risk assessments right, make sure that everything is done so that when we bring this to legislation, it continues to make sure that Bermuda is a well-regarded jurisdiction. We just got a ratings upgrade last week and everything else. We want to make sure that we stay on top of mind with all the ratings agencies. They know that Bermuda continues to be a well-regulated jurisdiction and is thinking thoughtfully about these things, not just rushing into them, but saying this is how we're going to do it and this is how we're going to write. But as you said, we're thrilled to have you here. Yep. So the question is, what announcements may you have to share with this room? Well, I know what you're going to say. But I just want everyone else to hear what you're going to say.
Yeah, I think that is just the perfect layup for me. And we at Stellar just thrilled to share that Bermuda's national economy is going to move on-chain on the Stellar network, making Stellar the network of choice for the world's first fully on-chain national economy. It's amazing to say those words. Really phenomenal. I think the confluence of what you have done, meeting the moment, I think the network that is really designed for this is really special. And so it's so fantastic to be here with all of these folks and have the opportunity to, again, speak with you on stage about this. I think what's really exciting is to make that tangible. In the future, what does it mean for Bermudians? It means that there'll be...
So I just wanted you guys to hear that direct announcement, right? That literally Bermuda is putting their entire on-chain economy on the Stellar network. So, I'm long-term bullish. I hold XLM. It's same thing. It's going to work for me in the Metallicus ecosystem, earning me yield. That's where right now my XLM is earning me passive income. So yet again, another major announcement from a digital asset that I personally hold in my portfolio that I'm net long-term bullish on. Not financial advice, right? But that was just another groundbreaking announcement that sets the precedence for what we are possibly set to experience in the coming months/years ahead in terms of massive scaled adoption. Last but not least, Yuval Ruz put this out. I'll say it again. Collateral movement on chain is probably one of the best use cases for public blockchain. Super excited that Societe Generale is joining the Canton Network to become a super validator. And Canton Network just hit 33 new validators. I remember over a year ago almost now, myself and Aqua pointed out that Canton coin, or the ticker symbol 33 or CC equals 33, and that there was some interesting number about the number 33 and how in the future it would probably play a very substantiating role in the Canton development. And here again, we see this number revisiting now later on in months ahead. But reading this Business Wire announcement, right, this was again something else that I just found net bullish with an asset that I personally hold. May 13th, 2026. Societe Generale today announced it is accelerating the development of institutional blockchain-based financial infrastructure on the Canton network. Societe Generale aims to become one of the first banks to develop collateral and financing solutions in tokenized form on Canton, addressing growing institutional demand for more efficient, secure, and compliant market infrastructure. The initiative combines Societe Generale's leadership in prime services, equity finance, and market infrastructure with Canton's privacy-enabled blockchain framework designed for regulated financial markets. In addition, SG Forge will deploy its institutional-grade coin-vertible stablecoins on Canton, providing a regulated digital settlement solution designed to support collateral mobility, financing activity, and cash management across tokenized markets and permitted jurisdictions. Societe Generale plans to execute several different initiatives on Canton, including accepting certain tokenized assets as eligible collateral, acting as a counterparty in repo transactions, and deploying SG Forge's regulated stablecoin USD and EUR convertible on Canton. This initiative directly responds to growing institutional demand with prime services environment, which is at the core of our franchise, said Salim Nomash, head of Equity Derivatives Americas and global head of prime services at Societe Generale. So I just found this interesting that this is at the core of Societe Generale's franchise, and it's being deployed on Canton. All right, that's a huge choice right there. We are convinced that a public blockchain with configurable privacy, such as Canton Network, provides the right framework to bring greater efficiency to margin calls, collateral management, and risk management. Innovating for our clients is part of Societe Generale's DNA. Bringing our regulated stablecoin to the Canton Network represents a major milestone in the advancing of institutional tokenized finance, said CEO of Societe Generale. By enabling secure, compliant, and efficient digital settlement, SG Forge is helping bridge traditional financial markets with on-chain infrastructure and unlocking new possibilities for collateral mobility, financing, and cash management. We are committed to supporting our clients as these markets scale. So those are all the announcements that I've seen just this week alone. Massive opportunities, not financial advice on any of these assets or chains that we talked about and discussed in today's video breakdown. I'm here to just show you guys that things are cooking behind the scenes. Always do your own due diligence and your own personal research and assess your own risk properly. But right, we're headed into an environment where on-chain finance and the entire financial infrastructure is moving to blockchain rails. And I'm looking to be a participant in some of these networks, as I do believe that some of these networks are going to be chosen ones that run the future financial infrastructure that the global population operates on. So